Welcome to A Brush with Art. I've always loved art and painting, and I've always loved sharing it with others. In this show, I'm going to show you some quick and easy and inexpensive ways to express yourself creatively. This is not going to be a show that takes a lot of time and talent and technology, but simply a brush with art. I hope you'll join me. I have an update on the Kevin segment. If you remember when Kevin did his shirt, he did Pokemon, and when his cousins came over, each of them wanted to do their own shirt. I'm going to let them tell you what their names are and what they did. Go ahead, Jacob. Jacob. What'd you do on your shirt, Jacob?
Motorcycle.
Okay. John?
I did Pokemon.
You want to turn it around and see the other side, John?
Yes.
Okay. Super. And Amber, what did you do?
Dalmatian.
That's a great job. All of you did a great job, and I hope that you'll let your kids try that. The t-shirt segment was a lot of fun, and not only that, but a big hit with the grandchildren. All of them did a great job. I was surprised at how well they did, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. If you haven't tried that with your children, I hope you will. You'll be surprised. Also, on that same show, we did a watercolor, sort of a wildlife type of watercolor, to match a bedspread. And if you remember, I said that when I think I'm about through with a watercolor, I like to sit it in a place where I can look at it for a while, a few days, a couple of weeks, just however long it takes. And on that watercolor, after we got the mat on it, something was missing. I want to show you what I did to finally complete the picture. We chose this hunter green mat with, we were going to go with a maroon, but we found that the burnt sienna actually looked better and brought out the maroon looking browns better. But what I did was put a foreground in. None of these trees were in the foreground in the last picture that I showed you. And when I did that, it gave the picture depth and perception and set all of these back, and now it is finished. And again, I hope you'll try watercolors if you've never tried them. Don't be afraid to just jump in there and start experimenting. You'll love it. Thanks. We just bought a new vanity for our bathroom. We chose a very, very simple style, unfinished, and brought it home, put a couple of coats of white paint on it. And then, even though it's made to open, here's a drawer here, without knobs, we decided we wanted something a little more on it. So we bought these knobs, which kind of coordinate with the shower curtain that's in our bathroom. And then we decided it was still just a little bit too plain, so we're going to paint some flowers on these two panels up here since they're not drawers. And we want to paint them to coordinate with the shower curtain. Even though these knobs are not exactly like the shower curtain, they coordinate with it very well. And I don't want to paint exactly the same flower that's on the shower curtain. That would be far too difficult and take too much time. I want to do something really quick and easy and simple. So I'm going to choose a flower that's going to go quickly and get it on there, and it will pick up all the colors in the shower curtain and also pick up the colors in the knob. The shower curtain has a blue ribbon running through it, so these were some of my ideas for the panels. Different ideas that I chose, but all of them seemed to be a little bit too much for such a small space. I finally decided that just a simple flower in the middle of each panel was going to be the best. And this is the pattern that I have finally come up with. Now I've also got a piece of material laying on the table here, have another piece behind me, a piece of the shower curtain, to help me keep the colors in mind, so I'll know which way to go with the colors and which color I want to use the most of. And remember, I don't want this to look exactly like the shower curtain. I just want to get the same feel and the same colors. This piece of paper was not quite as long as that panel, so to get my center, I simply folded it in half, started my design right in the middle of that fold, and since it's going to be the same width, that will be easy to line up. I have a little mark here, and this is going to line up with that mark, and that way we'll have it right in the center. I'm going to tape a piece of transfer paper under here. and tape this over the transfer paper and transfer that design onto the panel. Okay, and I think that's got it. Now let's raise this up and see if it transferred good, and it did. If we check it before we take it off, we may have to go over something and it'll be right in place. So let's just go ahead and take that off. And I decided to move over from that panel to this one because I'm using this as my guide, and that way it was closer and I can do my first one on this side real close to the knob. Now I have chosen my color palette rather than using just what's on the knob, just a little bit of rose and blue and green. I have decided to use some of the colors in the shower curtain. It's got some lavender and green and a little pale yellow and orange and rose red, and this is the color palette that I've chosen. As you know, I like to do things quick and easy. I usually grab just a nice looking plate. Doesn't matter whether it's white or what it is, because this is going to wash off. I always use a simple acrylic craft type paint that adheres to almost anything. And the brush that I use for almost everything is usually a round sable. The reason is that I can get a flat stroke with a round sable, and I can also get a very fine line with it. So that's what I usually use. And then also a very small flat is going to work well on that. And remember, I want this to be quick and easy, and I don't want to get stressed out over it and spend a lot of time on it. So I'd rather use the red that's in the shower curtain rather than that really rose color. So I'm going to mix these two colors together, but not completely. I'm just going to get a little bit of both in my brush. And then I'm going to start here in the center, and I'm just going to make this petal by using these little round strokes. And I did get a little too much rose in that, so I'm going to change my color on this one. Come down like that, and if your strokes look kind of streaked and they show, that's okay, because that's going to make it look good. That's going to give it some dimension and some character. Come out and do that one like that. Come around and do that one. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to lighten that up a little bit. I'm going to get some white. And the one underneath is going to have a little bit of white in it. And as you can see, that would have looked very good in the others. I'm going to add a little white to the others before they dry, and just part of the petals. Give it some little bit of dimension there. Okay, that's going to look good. And if I was trying to paint that flower on the shower curtain exactly, I would probably spend all day on that flower. I just want a pretty rose colored flower in the middle of that panel. Now I'm going to do the leaves, and for the leaves I'm going to, I noticed in the shower curtain there's a little bit of blue in the leaves. I think I'm going to use this fern green and the lighter green to start with. A little bit of water on that brush. But the same thing, get two colors on my brush, two shades of green. And come up here and do these, come down here and do these leaves first. And as you see, as you flatten your round sable brush, you'll get a broad stroke, and when you get to the end, you just kind of lift up and let it come right off your surface. And keep, you don't want to get your greens all mixed in. You want all these different colors in them. And what this is doing is simply blending your colors right on the picture that you're painting. Okay, I like that. That's looking good. Now for these little green leaves, I'm going to use a brighter green because the green in the knobs is a brighter color. So I'm going to put more yellow in that one. Okay. Just come up here and try to leave my wrist real loose so I can curve. if we hold our wrist too tight, our leaves will just be straight and stocky looking, and that's not what we want. Okay, and we're just going to finish these leaves out here. Okay, and I just got a couple more to do here. And that's just about got it. I'm going to join these stems later. Now I've decided, even though the knobs have only blue flowers on them, I'm going to add some lavender to them because the shower curtain has lavender in them. So these little blue bells are going to be blue, and these are going to be lavender. And then I can go back and just add a few other colors that I want to. So first of all, we're going to do the blue, little blue bells. And because the blue in the shower curtain is a little different color, I'm going to try to make it a little bit like both of them. And I'm going to not use that brush. I'm going to use a narrow brush to do that one, because I've got to come up with some points. Okay, we're going to do it like this. Start at the top, come down and press down so I can get a broader stroke when I get to the end. Start real skinny at the top, and you know that should have had some white in it, so let's just get a little white on our brush and come around like that. Blend it a little bit right on the panel. Okay, this cabinet is sitting on top of a kitchen table, so it's a little bit high for me, and yet it's not at a real bad painting level. I can do it, but it is just a little bit high. Okay, do this other blue bell. Add some white this time on my brush. Don't want to blend it, just want to blend it right onto the picture. Okay, there we have it. Now I'm going to go to my lavender, and the lavender is a little too dark, so I'm going to mix some white with it. This one I'm going to do a little mixing right on the plate because I definitely don't want the purple in there. Get just about the color I want, and then have it a little bit unmixed. I just want to be sure the water is out of my brush. Okay, we're just going to make some little round petals here. Outline them and then fill them in. And we'll come back and do the center of that. And you can see the paint is not completely blended. I'm going to add a touch of purple on the bottom one, and that's going to really give it some perspective there. Okay, we have just about got the basics on this down, and we're going to do just a little bit of detailing on it, and it's going to be finished, and we're going to have a project done in less than an hour. Okay, and we have got it finished, and I just want to point out in closing a few little details I did that will make your picture look better. I went back and added more leaves, very thin paint so you can even see the white through it. Added some veins to some of the leaves and some little tiny pollen, the color of the yellow and orange in the shower curtain. Now I'm going to move over to the other panel and do the same process on this one, and then we're going to be ready to install this thing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll try it sometime. Thanks for joining. India art, it never loses its appeal for decorating. These are some Indian plates that I painted a while back, and I'm getting ready to give these to my daughter who's just redecorated her kitchen. You know, to look at these, it looks like they probably took a lot of time, a lot of talent, and a lot of technique, but really they were very, very simple to do. And I'm going to do one more plate to complete the series, and I want to show you just how quick and easy it was to do. I found this paint at the craft store, porcelain, that you paint on china and glass with, and I just had to try it to see if it was as easy as they made it look. And it was very easy, and what gave it this look was the paint, what the paint does and how it works on the china. It does its own shading, it does its own technique as far as the texture, and let me show you how I did that. I've got a pattern here, and I've already sketched it onto the plate, And I decided to complete this series, it needed 2 children wrapped up in a blanket. So I'm going to go ahead and take the pattern off. And this is just sort of a thumbnail sketch. You can either sketch it yourself, or if you're not a sketcher, you can find a pattern that you like. And the first thing I'm going to do is get my background on. And I did that with a variety of sponges. Depending on the texture of the sponge is what gave the texture on the plate, and whether the sponge was wet or whether it was dry. And I have also found that her predominant color is periwinkle. And I had periwinkle and maroon, actually. And I had a little bit more of a turquoise in those. So I'm going to use some periwinkle and kind of pull all that in together. You want to be sure and shake those up real good, which I just did. And I think I'm going to take a dry sponge. Well, actually, what I'm going to do first is start with my sepia and get just a little bit of yellow in there. Just a drop there. Because I'm going to want a light source somewhere. And I think I'm going to put that right back here behind this one. And you can see already what the sponge is doing and just how easy it is to get a nice look. And I'm going to brush that right on out to the edge of the plate. And I already like the way it's building up and then kind of leaving it blank in there. I like that. I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, and then I'm going to try this sponge right here and get some periwinkle on it and just give a background all the way around. Let's sit down here and do that. Just a very faint, dry, stippled effect. And then I'm going to make the robe in a maroon and then some other colors that will complement it. Of course, when you're using a sponge, if you go over what you've already sponged, you're going to totally change the look. So you always want to keep that in mind. But that's going to look good. I'm going to like that. Okay. Get up in there a little bit. Okay. And now to show you how easy it is to use your brush and brush the paint on and the different things you can do with it. For their complexion, I'm going to use a darker, it's almost a burnt sienna, sort of a flat brush. And I'm just going to use as few strokes as possible and just get some color on the face. And use some of the paint in the top there because it'll be a little bit more condensed. And I just loved the way the paint just went on and did a little bit of shading on its own and just made a really nice look on the china. And now for the robes, I'm going to get some, I'm going to try some maroon here, and I'm going to mix it in a little bit with the periwinkle. Try to tie all these colors in. Then I'm going to take that same brush that will cover a pretty big area for me. I'm going to start here and just fill in this blanket that these little children are wrapped in. And what I'm going to do is add a complementary color to it also. And the picture I have in my mind, as I said, just kind of goes right off the plate like that. It just sort of gives almost a spiritual effect. Doesn't really show the feet, and it's also an exaggerated look. I'll come over here and make that color. Then I'm going to add a different shade to that one on that side. Okay, got that. And now for the hair. Well, I think I better finish the blanket before I do the hair. I think what I'd like to use with that is some turquoise. Beautiful Indian dye colors that you always see with Indian pictures and Indian art and crafts. Okay, I'm going to come along and do right here where it will look like the blanket is turned back a little bit. And just leave there where I can come back and fill the hair in with black. And Indian paintings are so much fun to do and so beautifully colorful, and with the long black hair that the Indians had, it's just a lot of fun to work with. You do a lot of beautiful things with it. Okay, and now I'm going to want to fill in right here with another color. I think I'm going to go back to these two colors right here and just get that filled in. Okay, and now if you'll notice how much deeper those colors are than these are, when this dries, I will go back and start layering it and get more colors on it and possibly put a different color on top of a color until I get just a real nice look. And again, it's just very, very easy to do and very quick. Now I'm going to do their hair. Find let's see, I think I'll use this one right here. Get it just a little bit wet. Don't want to get too much water in it because then it'll be too thin. So we better get that off. Okay. Now this one has a braid, and these faces are not very well defined at all. Just a hint of what the face looks like and what the expression looks like. And to do the braids, I'm just going to do some little dots down here and then just kind of come around like that. And this one I want to do a long sweeping motion. And again, I can come back and go over this when it's dry if I decide I need to. And you can see how it builds up in some areas and then it thins out in some areas, and that's what gives it such a beautiful look after it's dry. And after this dries overnight, I will bake it in the oven for 30 minutes at 350, and that will change the colors just enough that it will just look beautiful. I'm going to get a little bit of hair in here. Okay, that's good. And now I'm going to put my border around, and to do that I'm going to wet the brush a little bit. Get a little bit of water on the sponge. Don't want to get it too wet, but I'm going to pick up that deep purple, put a little bit of maroon in it, and you can see here where it got too wet. That's not the look I want, so I'm going to blot that out. I want some real dark paint on that, so I'm going to pick up some heavy paint. And you can see the bubbles in the sponge from the water creates a nice effect too. And I'm going to want to come back and put 2 or 3 coats on that to get the look I want. But right now I'm just going to get 1 coat on it. Right about there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is take my brush and put it directly on the sponge. Of course, when you're sponge painting, it really, really soaks up your paint. So you got to work fast sometimes. But you can see now how much deeper that is. And I just keep going around until I get the effect I want. Now when that dries, I will come back and I will put some more color in here to make it as dark as this one is. And I will also fade this out just a little bit. And right now I'm going to put the faces in. And when you're painting with something like this, it's best to not try to be too defined with your details. And I'm just going to suggest, here's what they have on the market to do outlining and defining. And I'm going to just suggest the eyes and the nose and the mouth rather than try to do a really detailed portrait. And the way I'm going to do that is to keep in mind that these are little children. Little children, and I'm getting my arm in that paint, so I'm going to have to get something to lean on here. Little children have wide set eyes, their nose is shorter, and their mouth is closer to their nose. So you want to remember that if you're doing children, and you'll get a better look. It'll look more like a child. I'm just going to dot the eyes Just going to suggest the nose and the mouth. A couple little dimples there. This one I want them to be looking over to the side. A couple of eyebrows, just a little bit. Nose and mouth, okay? And as soon as that dries, I'm going to come back and add some more color to it. Okay, and now I have let it dry. I used the hair dryer to help it dry and did some layering. And you can see how the robes already have started taking on the look of the others with layering it. I added some of the maroon on top of the rose. I added some of the ultramarine blue on top of the turquoise. Also, I did this brush to get some of the effect. I wanted some rays of color here. I wanted to get a little bit of the yellow over here. And basically, I think that was it. And I think that's going to complete the set. And I certainly hope that you'll try this sometime. It's a whole lot easier than it looks like. I think you'll really enjoy it. And if you do try it, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know on my email at the end of this segment, and I'll be glad to help you with it. I hope you enjoy it.